All right, everybody. I've been meaning to talk about this for a while, so we're just going to get right to it. PSO2 version 2 was not what any of us were expecting. A lot of it just ended up being a lot of cosmetic changes and some creative space implementation, which is all really good, and I'm very happy for Sega for this. However, one of the things I was generally expecting to change as well when it came to the version 2 update was the overall weapon and armor economy. I would hope, and I believe it's in the player base's best interest, and I'm pretty sure everybody just generally agrees. Your progression in this game right now, as it is, fucking sucks. Let's just get that out of the way right now. It sucks. But through a lot of community implementation and a few videos made by some larger content creators, I have at least seen that there are some constructive suggestions on fixing it. I don't think everything will like 100% fix the issue. Kathy's put out some stuff, Kronos put out some stuff, Crit's put out some stuff. I want to give my own take on it. So I also want to put this up with a few guidelines. One, my goal in this implementation is to help armor and weapons be worth more. I want them to have a bigger impact on the player market, because I do believe that with somebody finding a rare drop, even as rare as a lot of them are, they should be worth something. I think even like outside of like a month or two of that weapon being available, they should be worth something. And one of the major fixes I should see towards this should be the fixes system. That should be changed. Right now, as it currently stands, a weapon or armor can drop with just a chance of it having a fix on it. These fixes skills are very powerful. They range from anywhere from natural and active PP regen to some guard boosts to outright helping your attack for like for weapons. But the thing about this is it's RNG, and with that we find a lot of issues. And one of the major, and I mean major, like sites of this has been the Neos Astrian series that we've had, since you can only get those, you can't create them, and your means of obtaining them wildly with a fixa is just solely RNG. So it makes it really hard for anybody who's looking to min-max gear that they have. They're solely preying on RNGs for it. That, as well as like certain implementations of processes where it comes to transferring fixes, you can only transfer them across just the same weapon series, well, the same weapon class. People want to see that swap happen towards weapon series, which is probably easier for Sega to implement. But I want gear progression to kind of mean a bit more. And what do I mean by that? I want the overall acquisition as well as the process for progressing with that weapon to mean more. Right now, as it currently stands for the player market, if we look at the top searches, we can look at something like the Revitas series, right? As it stands, it's something that was commonly dropped during the previous event, and this was an 8-star series. We just had an update today, well, yesterday, but even prior to that, at the highest end, well, at the lowest end, that like common drops, these ended up not being worth a lot. You could buy them from the event shop. They dropped like candy. It was an event weapon. Fine. However, these still weren't bad, especially for the event. But you would find as you go through, this cute little red symbol here indicates a fixa ability. These fixa abilities go 1 through 5 for any of those given effects. Termina, I believe, is what? Critical damage? Yep, crit potency. Fatal is usually the big one with the implementation of Slayer, where it influences your crit chance. However, again, these are mainly all RNG. And you will find that whenever you start to look towards something that's like a fix of 4 or 5, or it starts to reach the higher levels of these, the price difference for these is insane. Like, it's absolutely up a freaking wall. Like, you'll find like the base weapon be, again, worth nothing because RNG just tends to drop them all because we just had an event. And this is like on the low end because you're finding something that's like all fixed out. This is something that somebody used for their runs going through the dual quests. But like if we use something else, just 1 and 2 mil, this is all still relatively cheap. God, let's go to something else. Like, I guess if I were to like go through, I could probably use like the Gunblaze series as like a decent one, because if we're looking at a base one, they're a mill because they influence crit chance. But then if we look at a fix of 5, we start at 20 mil for something that's unaugmented, which, just for transparency here, I'm not against that. at all. I actually do believe that Fixa weapons should have a lot of value, especially the higher the Fixa you go. It's just how we obtain those. And something that I want to liken this to is more of like the ring system that we had in base PSO2, where the more you use a weapon, the more experience you gain by using that weapon. As you hit a certain threshold, it takes a certain amount of planetary materials to go in and upgrade it. Let's say, depending on, it would also depend on the rarity. That way you go on and hunt with certain regions and things like that. Like, I'm looking for something in a process for upgrading weapons that still makes it possible where everybody who decides to go in and engage with it can, but I want to reward the player who decides to take the time to actively play the game. I mean, of course, there will be people like me who sit there and rewatch the market, see for certain dips, and try to make a deal that way. The type of player like me is always going to exist. But at least for the base level player, everybody should have the opportunity to obtain a Fixa. It shouldn't just be RNG or solely through like the player market. Or better yet, if we end up with more craftable weapons again, that shouldn't be a roadblock for somebody being able to do good damage. Somebody should be able to actively obtain the gear and should have the ability to min-max regardless of RNG. You know what I mean? And I'm looking for a system like that to kind of be implemented. But, and this is a huge but, I do not want to see something that I don't want Sega. Oh my god, I'm sorry. This stresses me the fuck out because it's like every little instance that Sega kind of get their hand in a cookie jar to become like the middleman in terms of progression, they always seem to do so. So my fear is with the implementation of a system like this, they end up with that AC support scratch, but they end up going, oh, hey, we'll give you a Fixa jump to Fixa attack 5 or Fixa blah, blah, blah this. And it's just RNG and people are going to buy it because it's the quickest way to get what they want. Sega, if you were listening, please don't do this. I repeat, don't do this. Allow players to play the game. Allow the market to determine the value. And don't allow people to just shortcut their way through it. That way, the prices can adjust accordingly.
That's a really good idea.
Like, again, the end goal of this is for there to be a lot of value with any perceived weapon drop. Just, I even want to go through, like, the newest 9 stars that are coming out, which I'm gonna assume there's not a lot on the market right now. And I'm not even, like, too sure. Yeah. It's not going to be here. I don't care to look up the name. But even with the newest ones, usually whenever we get like a new relic-like weapon series, they're usually super astronomically expensive, which is good. I don't entirely mind that. New weapons, new armor should be worth a lot because it's supposed to be that next progression, bump in progression. But I'm almost looking for like a middle ground here where the drop rates can still be decent. Nah, high-end stuff should still be like relatively rare. Because see, now I'm gonna start going on a tangent where
346 minutes later.
Hey, we probably should have had multiple weapon series introduced around this time, like maybe 1 or 2, and then it's just like the best one that ends up being the most. But then they also release other things that are side adjacent that probably aren't the best, like min-max wise, but they can at least decently allow you to complete like the hardest content. It's just if you end up getting that like highest tier of weapon for that star value, you get a lot easier time with it. I believe like in terms of overall weapon drops, that should be the case. So honestly, even like the slow roll of weapons hurts a bit. But let's say in a perfect world, we had 3. One was more of like the conservative take where it's just easy going, quality of life during like high-end combat. The other one was like very little risk, very little reward, and then you have like the high end, this best in slot. Bro, all of those should still have some form of value instead of you get like a side adjacent thing and it's just instantly shat on. It's not worth anything, especially since a lot of like the obtaining for items that we have right now is just all RNG. But again, this is further emphasized by craftable weapons. I just want fixes to actually count as a form of progression rather than just a payoff of RNG, because people should be able to resell their weapons, and a weapon that they go and sit there and raise, now that it has a Fixa, should be worth more. Somebody put like their time into fixing it, getting the weapon experience to go on and up fixes for it, because I'm never a fan of just implementing new Fixa types because all people are gonna do is just float towards a new meta, right? It's just gonna happen. A meta is going to be found. People are gonna float to it. But I think at least this way, people will be able to at least like niche out into. They would be able to niche out a play style, and then if they go on and hop into a Fixa for it, it at least makes sense of why they went into it, and then they kind of have some payoff for it. I don't know. Those are just my thoughts on like fixes in terms of like weapons and armor. I happen to like my take. If you have anything going against it, going for it, let me know in the comment section below. I'm Awake49, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.